Welcome back to CBS News 24/7. The Trump administration announcing a major freeze on federal funding for Harvard University. Why? The university refusing to comply to a list of demands from the Trump administration. So the Harvard Crimson reporting those demands addressed everything from banning masks to eliminating DEI programs. Journalists at the Crimson also report Team Trump asked Harvard to disempower faculty leaders involved with campus activism and punish members of pro-Palestinian student groups. The university said no. So the president pushed back on social media saying, quote, perhaps Harvard should lose its tax-exempt status and be taxed as a political entity if it keeps pushing political, ideological, and terrorist-inspired / supporting sickness, close quote. Now, remember, tax-exempt status is totally contingent on acting in the public interest, the president went on to say. Here's coverage from our partners at CBS News Boston.
Want to work at a place and be part of a community that stands up for its principles, right?
Harvard political science professor Ryan Eno says there's reason to celebrate, even as the university faces a $2.2 billion federal funding freeze from the Trump administration.
If you don't have that, you don't have anything.
The White House higher ed battle stems from the pro-Palestinian encampments that grew at Harvard and elsewhere last year. Last week, the Trump administration's anti-Semitism task force asked the university to implement broad reforms like changes to admissions policies, an audit of diversity on campus, and to stop recognizing some student clubs. Harvard's response? A flat no, saying it threatens the university's independence and constitutional rights. Then the government pulled the funds, dealing a blow to Harvard's research budget.
It's not just that things have been stopped cold, which a lot of it has, like one day they're doing research and then the next day they can't. It's also the fact that they can't plan.
Harvard Medical School, for example, said federal funds enabled innovations in cancer immunotherapy, treatments for diabetes and obesity, therapies for autoimmune diseases, and the first gene editing therapy for sickle cell disease and more.
Harvard is trying to, have its cake and eat it too.
But Shabbos Kestenbaum, who got his master's degree from Harvard and campaigned for President Trump, says this sort of penalty on the university is long overdue.
And what the federal government is doing is saying you have a track record of discrimination, you have a track record of violating the civil rights of your own students, and we're not going to fund this.
What would you say to people who are like, well, it's Harvard, they have a $54 billion endowment, they can handle this?
Well, look, there is some truth to that, of course. That's why it's important for Harvard to fight.
And it seems the fight is not over, as President Trump Tuesday wrote on Truth Social that he believes Harvard should lose its tax-exempt status and be taxed as a political entity.
They were sort of digging in for battle, and we all have to be prepared to go through that now.
The government is now reviewing a full $9 billion in federal funding for Harvard. That includes $8.7 billion for future commitments for the university and major hospitals like Dana-Farber Cancer Institute, Mass General, and Boston Children's. In Cambridge, Louisa Moller, WBZ News.